How you doing? I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Well,
You
well,
know,
well.
this is exciting for me because we know each other from like elementary school age.
Riding the
And
bus.
yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that both of us are still here in Seattle, bringing our brilliance to the city. You've been involved in a lot of different things, but today you want to give us some insight on some recent work you've been doing. I want to hear more about this because folks may know you in the education sphere. They know you in athletics because you've been athletic director over here. You've been doing this or that school initiative over there, this one. So education has always been a real pillar for you. But you also have really been involved in community initiatives. And, now you're working to bring some resources, it sounds like, into community. Tell us more about what you have going on.
Well, I currently am working as the president of the Rainier Valley Community Development Fund. And that fund was established just over 20 years ago, back when Seattle was going through trying to figure out where they're going to put their light rail station. And, it just so happened that they decided to go overground in South Seattle. And a group of community members got together and said, hey, we're going to be displacing businesses during this. And so how can we support the businesses that are being displaced so that they'll be able to continue business. And so a fund was started. That fund helped with some of the mitigating services for those businesses to move. And 20 years later, that fund's turned into a bank that's continuing to help organizations in the Rainier Valley area and outside of it to kind of make that next step and that next growth in their development. And so right now we are looking to just continue to do that work, continue to help small businesses, BIPOC businesses, Black businesses develop and grow during these really tough times. So.
This is so important. I mean, when you're talking about funding, I don't know that we can get enough of it. I mean, we've never really seen communities of the global majority be fully funded in ways that allow for them to have a robust amount of services and resources like Mercer Island, like
Right,
Medina,
right.
right? I mean, and I always look to those kind of areas and cities because I go, look, something is right there because resources are free flowing in these areas. What kind of ways are y'all ensuring that this fund, Rainier Valley Community Development Fund, that it goes to the right areas? I mean, how do y'all really find the ways to invest in things that can bring longevity in terms of, robust business vitality to the area?
Really, it's about the community, right? A lot of the work that we do is connect with small businesses in some of these development areas that we are seeing their clientele maybe be displaced, and they're needing to maybe change their business model a little bit and grow to scale. And so, for us, it's through our loan officers that are connected with the community and word of mouth as organizations and different institutions try to grow. That's just kind of how we do it. It's we're not out marketing and doing all this putting the big dollars into our marketing plans. It's really about, to some extent, grassroots community based work to help support these organizations that don't have the infrastructures to get to the next step in their business development. Yeah.
Yeah, and we know that oftentimes the resources are key in terms of business sustainability, particularly with small businesses. I mean, they talk about small businesses as the backbone of America, right? I mean, we've heard that narrative over and over again. But if there's not robust funds to allow these businesses to tap in, particularly when we deal with something that was so unprecedented like COVID, oftentimes that means that's a huge difference between a business staying open and a business closing. What kinds of businesses and what sectors have y'all been able to invest in since the fund's been open or since you've been there?
So mainly we work with so restaurants. I think Buna Buna, you guys might know Buna Buna Coffee. So they're actually, am I allowed? Yeah, they're one of our clients. That Brown Girl Cooks was another one of our clients. Really, it's just any company that's looking to, and I know I just keep getting general with it, but any company that's BIPOC led that's looking to just get to the next level in their growth is really what we're about. And so, we're based in the Rainier Valley area, although we are able to service other developmental zones. But that's and it's just the work that we're doing. So
Well, it's great to hear that because it's necessary. I mean, oftentimes too at the state level, sometimes there's a lot of barriers, right? I mean,
Right.
we can have a business who's struggling. They got to come in with 10 years tax returns and they got to, showcase that, hey, we're a distressed business. We're about to close. It pulls on the vulnerability a lot of times when businesses have to come in and give you a whole spiel about how messed up it is for them right now. I mean, what kind of approach do y'all take to, not just finding these businesses, but once you have a good solid amount of applications in, what kind of process does that look like for a business owner who's looking to get funded?
I mean, we really like to sit with our potential clients and I'll leave that to our loan officers necessarily, but we sit with our clients. We want to know what it is exactly they need, where they're at within their development. A lot of times when we have these companies that just came from a mom and pop and grew and just didn't really have infrastructure. Sometimes they need some of those technical services, and that's one of the things that we're able to do is also support in that end. So yes, maybe you're looking to grow and you just don't have all those little things to really get your business where it needs to be, so that when you take the next step, you're able to grow in a stable environment. So that's really what we do. We're also able to give loans that typical banks wouldn't be able to give, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are community-based, because we are about the growth, and because we are also about just making sure that we're able to keep some of these lifeline-like institutions, restaurants, beauty salons, whatever they may be for our communities, in place, so they can continue to grow and develop and provide that those things that are so needed and staples to our community. So yeah.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know about funds like this. I mean, as you said, y'all are not out there just like marketing. So folks happen to stumble upon you, whether it's word of mouth or however they find you. That's really brilliant. But I recently learned that there are over 250 Black-led funds across the country, right? And it was astonishing to me because there's also not a lot of talk about these funds, what they're funding, how they got funded, what investors are looking to do when they pour into funds like this. What kind of relationships do y'all maintain with some of your investors? I mean, clearly this fund started with, the fact of like the light rail and there being like a surplus in a sense, but how have y'all been able to keep that going and keep those relationships with certain investors and funders to keep the fund alive?
I'm glad you asked. That's the work, right? That is our work. There are a multitude of BIPOC Black businesses across the country that need our services. And part of the reason why you don't hear about the work these organizations are doing, these CDFIs are doing, is because we're doing so much work to use those funds to support the companies and the institutions that need us, that we're not putting it all on the social media or any of those other things in the background to make that happen. I think opportunities like this to let people know what we're doing, why we're doing it, to potentially gather more investors to help support us do the work that we're trying to do, is huge. So more opportunities like this. I'm sitting down with you, my homegirl. We growing up together and being able to talk about the work that we're doing to help stabilize our community as it goes through the changes it's going through. I think is key. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm currently doing this work with Seattle School for Boys, right? Where we're really trying to. It's an all boys private middle school in the central district of Seattle, where we are similarly doing similar work. Helping our boys understand who they are, why they are, and why it's so important for them to connect with their community, and also connect with it in a way that allows them to be allows their community to be sustainable, right? And so we do that with our scholars. We do that with their families, because it's not just a thing to come into a neighborhood and say, "Hey, I'm here. Let me patron you." It's also a thing to come in and say, "Hey, I'm here. How can I support you? How can I create an ecosystem around you so that we can be sustainable, so that we can grow together in that way?" And so that's had to get my plug in from a school.
I
So
love
you
that.
know.
No, you know I was gonna ask. I see you got the shirt on. You're representing.
I had to.
You're representing
Yeah.
hard. But I also think too that there's something very special about funds like Rainier Valley Community Development Fund that focuses on global majority businesses, and it's because we have major fund. I mean, Seattle is one of the wealthiest cities in the country.
Man.
We know that there's like concentrated wealth here, and yet we still see these stark layers of disparities when it comes to, racial wealth gap and the wealth divide, and, displaced communities and global majority communities being the ones, when you look at the statistics, always, toward the bottom. I mean, Black and Native communities in particular are always right around there at the very two bottom rungs, right? And we just see it over and over again. And so there's something really special about the work of the Rainier Valley Community Development Fund because it is intentional in its investments. And shout out to other funds. I know there's big major foundations that do work here and that try, to be culturally responsive and be relational. And I know I've talked to funders for several years now about moving from this kind of transactional approach to a more relational approach, providing, funds that are, not boxed in to a specific program or a specific, thing they need to do. So these unrestricted funds are so necessary. But it also means just being connected to community, AJ, and you stay connected and committed to community as you just shared there with the Seattle School for Boys. I mean, it takes a certain personal approach to be able to continue that work in a real way. How have you brought your passion for community to the role that you're doing there at the fund, and then connecting with others who are on the fund with you, on the board, whatever, that you get to share kind of that passion that you bring for community to this work?
It's easy when you're doing it from the heart, right? When the work that you're doing is meaningful and fulfills you. Like you said, I've taken on a bunch of different roles, but all of my roles have a common theme of ensuring and supporting community and its stability for generations and generations to come. And so, with one of the really cool things about the fund is that the originators of it required that if you were a board member, you had to have some type of connection with the community. So you had to live in a certain demographic, or you had to be, or have a business in a certain in a certain area, and so those things make it easy for us to do the work, easy for us to find individuals, or at least not have the individuals on the board that don't contribute to that community-based kind of feel to it. But we're consistently always looking for board members that understand what we're trying to do and have the capacity to do that. The truth is that if you are someone that's in this work, you're doing the work, and so it makes it really. And there's not a lot of us that are doing the work, so it makes it really tough for us to be able to find, especially here in Seattle, to find those individuals who are able to connect with the work, aren't in the work, but are able to volunteer their time to do it, right? And so it takes a really unique individual that's currently in their space to be able to take that extra time. And I'm not always going to have the time. I got 3 young kids, and they take up a bunch of my time, and want to be able to spend more time with them. So the more community members we have to come on board and to support this, the more we're able to continue to build and support small businesses as they grow. So
I feel you 100%. If I had the time, I would be there. We had this discussion. I mean, my big thing is that I'm always like, okay, how can I utilize the time I do have and the platforms I have? This is why I think Black media is so important, because we want to be able to uplift the work that is being done in our community, so folks know about something like Rainier Valley Community Development Fund. It is necessary for us to be connected and engaged with the work, even when it's like, man, maybe I can't do something there, but maybe I can refer someone. Maybe I can, you know what I mean? Knowing about it and being exposed to what y'all are doing is a part of it. So I'm glad I could help in that way.
I appreciate it.
If my
Thank you.
time ever frees up, I'm coming to you. But
Thank you.
I want to give you a second to look right there in the camera. Make sure folks know if they are, someone working in community that does have some time to give to this board and to this work, or if they're a small business who's like, oh my God, this is what I need right now for my business. Look right there into that camera. Let them know how they connect with Rainier Valley Community Development Fund.
So if you are a small business, if you are a entrepreneur, if you are anyone engaged in business within the Rainier Valley area and are interested in getting connected with a community-based CDFI that is looking to stabilize and help grow the community, Rainier Valley Community Development Fund.org is where you go to connect with Bob Luciano, our executive director, and just connect. The fund's here for you.
AJ, man, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing light to this community development fund. And, for those who don't know, a CDFI is exactly that, community financial development institution. They are so necessary in our communities. And I'm glad that we have one that's right here, that's homegrown, that's, community rooted in the ways that you described, to really ensure that businesses have a touch point to some of the funds that they may need to keep themselves alive and thriving in our communities. AJ, thank you for doing this
Thanks
work
for having
and
me.
for volunteering your brilliance to this effort. It's so necessary.
No, thank you for having me, Trae.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Anytime y'all have announcements or anything, I'm telling you, come back. We got you.
Yep. Thank you.
Well.